Hello and welcome back to this Depence 4 tutorial. In this tutorial we are going to take a look at the show programming basics. For this tutorial we are going to use our Depence R4 demo stage, which you can find in your Depence main window and then on the tab Demo Projects, and we are going to use the Festhall Demo R4. Okay, now that our project is loaded, let's disable Look To and enable the house lights. I will zoom into the stage and zoom into our row with spiders. In Depence, there are several ways to select your fixtures. It does not matter which method you choose, it will always respect the order you made on the fixtures. So for the first method, I will enable Live View mode. You can either click the Live button over here or press the L button on your keyboard. Now you can simply, with the left click, select your fixtures. You can, while holding down the Control key, select multiple fixtures, and also while holding down the left mouse button, you can instantly make a selection order. Now for the second method, we will take a look at our 3D hierarchy, and we can simply, by left clicking here, select our fixtures. Again, holding down the Control key, we can select multiple fixtures, or if we hold down the Shift key and click on the last fixture, it will select all our fixtures. And just like the Live View mode selection method, also here, if we do like a in-out selection order, when we save this group later, it will also save the selection order we made. Now for the third method, we will disable the Live View mode and we will simply click on our fixtures. But without the Live View mode, it is a little bit more complicated than with Live View mode. That is why I also recommend using Live View mode when selecting fixtures. Because as we can see, the spiders are in the spider group, and then they're also in the front, in the floor lights, and in the truss group. Now if we clear our selection again, we will see if I click into the fixtures, it will first of all select floor lights. If I click again, it will go into the front group. If I click again, it will go into the spider group. And if I click once more, now I am at my actual fixture. And now I can also select all my fixtures. Now let's take a look at another method on how to select fixtures in Depence. For this we will need a new window, which is called Schematic Views. I will drag and drop it onto the right of my screen and I will create a new page called Spider. Now if we turn on the Live View mode and select from left to right, drag and drop them into our Schematic Views window, import them on a top view and recenter our view, we can see that our selection order has been respected. And we selected from left to right, and we see 1, 2, 3, 4 from left to right. We can also see the fixture ID 5, 15, 16, 17, and 18. And of course, we can now go to another fixture group, select those, maybe not from left to right at this time, but from right to left. Import them on the left, click OK, recenter our view. And we can see that also here it has respected our import selection order. And now if we select them, place them near our other spider group. And now we can select them from left to right, from right to left. You can make a odd even selection, or even something like this. So now that we know how to select some fixtures, how can we actually store those groups? It's pretty easy. We can, again, in our schematic view, select our fixtures, and we have a tab down here, Selection Groups. Just for clearance, I deleted all previously made groups. So we can go ahead and create a new folder called Tutorial. And now we can click this folder and click Group Selected. What it will do, it will group all our selected fixtures and also again respect the selection order we made. So let's go for Spider, and we made this in the Schematic View. Now if we open up our tutorial folder, we can see it made a new group. If we now select this group, we see our selection order has been saved and our fixtures are now in this group. We can of course also go into live view mode. Again, maybe this time from right to left. Select our fixtures. Again, click the tutorial folder and click group selected and call it spider live mode. And again, we see we made a selection order from right to left. You can also, in the live view mode, select your fixtures, turn off live view mode and use this little finger icon here. Drag and drop it into the tutorial folder and also call it spider left. Now let's take a look at the internal program of Depence. For this, I made a new group, spider floor, which is just all spiders on the floor from left to right, as we can see in the schematic view. Now let's close the schematic views window as we don't need it anymore. And when we select fixtures, we can click on programmer and we will see a table view of all the parameters this fixture has available. And now if we click full open, the fixture activates all parameters needed for it to actually turn on. We can then say release once, release twice, and the fixture will turn off again. And also there is a highlight feature in the programmer. Let's talk about our release states. If we turn on our spiders and our Mac Ultra Performance, we can see there is a release button, and this release button will do three things one after each other. So the first thing it will do is clear out all unmarked safe states. So this means you can see intensity, shutter, iris and zoom has some little S letters on it. That means if we would store this look into a scene, which we will do later, only those 4 parameters will be saved. So now if we clear once, the S letters will disappear. If we clear twice, we will release those fixtures active. And if we clear 3 times, it will clear all fixtures in the programmer. So now also our spiders dimmed off. So again, if we bring up everything, release once, release twice, and release 3 times. If you have background dancers, a main act, or just a simple object on your stage which you want to highlight with some fixtures and you don't want to manually bring them into focus, there is a simple trick. Just select your group. For better visualization, I will bring them at full and hold down the F key and left mouse button, and all your fixtures will move into position to highlight your object. Now let's take a look on how to actually use the programmer. For this, I will dim down the house and first level lights. Go to selection groups and let's start with our spider floor group. Let's bring them at full and tilt them down a little bit. So now there are several ways on how to change this value. You can either use the fader like I did. You can use your mouse scroll button to change the value. You can use the snapping values over here. And also you can double click the actual value and type in a custom one. So in my case, it will be something like this. And then for the pan feature, you can, while holding down the Control or Alt key, you can fan out your fixtures or fan in. So for me, something like this looks good. And now we can also see that we have a range from 49% through 51%. And you can see that in the programmer, every active or selected parameter has a little S letter in it, which means it is currently selected and will be stored if we store it into a scene. But more on that later. Let's go for color. So simply click on color mix and you will see the spectrum of the colors. And I will simply go for a preset, which are down here, like cyan. You can of course manually adjust the values, and you can also with a double click go into the field and manually change the values. But I will stick to the cyan preset for now. Now let's go for our Mac Ultra Performance on the floor. Bring them up, tilt them down a little bit, fan them out, and give them a zoom. Let's go for a color. Let's go for pink. And for our Mac Ultras in the roof, let's again bring them up, tilt them up a little bit, and let's give them a little gobo. Let's focus the gobo. And that's it for our first look. Now, how can we store this look into an actual scene? Let's go to repository and let's go to scenes, right click, add new folder, tutorial. And with a simple left click, you can store all current active parameters into this scene. Let's call it look1. And if we clear out and trigger look1, we can see what we have programmed so far. Now let's say I would like to change the color of the Mac Ultra Performance in the roof to pink. Let's disable look1, right click, edit, go to selection groups, Ultra Roof, and let's change the color to pink. We can now say merge update changes, clear out, and activate look1 again. Now we see that we have changed the color of our Mac Ultra Performance in the roof. Let's edit look1 one more time. Right click, edit. And now let's only choose our spider group. There are a few buttons on the top row of the programmer, which are called select all, even, odd, left wing, right wing, and invert selection. Let's take a look at what those buttons actually do. So when we select even, we see that the programmer only has the even fixtures active. If we say odd, all odd fixtures will be selected, and we can go back to all and select left wing. All left fixtures are active, and we can say right wing. So now let's go back to all. Let's select all even fixtures, go to color mix, and let's give them also a pink color. If we now zoom back, you can see a nice fade between pink and cyan. Now that we have created our first look, let's try to apply some effects to it. For the first effect, I would like to have a simple tilt sinus wave for the Mac Ultra Performance in the roof. So let's select our group, go to tilt. There is a tab called effect in the programmer over here. If we click it, we can open up a preset of a waveform. In my case, it will be a sinus wave. And once we hit OK, we will see that it starts moving. We can now play along with all those values until we say, oh, look, looks good. So I will start with the amplitude. The amplitude, min and max value will decide how far your tilt effect will move. For example, if I turn down the min value to 0, we will see that our Mac Ultra Performance will go all the way up into the roof. And if I go back to the value we had and go for the max value to be 100, we will see that they will tilt all the way into the back. So I want to have a nice tilt sinus wave effect at the front of the stage. Something like this looks good. Okay, for the second parameter we have the phase. And if we disable it, it will stop spreading the sinus wave effect onto all fixtures and make it kind of like one group. I think we all know the phase from common consoles like GrandMA. Let's now take a look at the width. We can see on the top view that our sine wave will go from the first white line to the second white line. And to have a better understanding or to better visualize it, let's increase our max value. Now we have a nice sinus wave. If we now decrease the width to, let's say, 50%, we will now see that the effect completes entirely within the first 50% of the range. Let's decrease the speed a little bit to, let's say, 5 ppm. Now my effect looks good, but I would like to have it symmetrical. For this, we can go into our selection tool, and a new window will open in the top right corner. And if we now hit one of those left or right arrow and hit apply, we will see that we now have a symmetrical effect. But let's start from the first one. The first panorama will make it a straight line, kind of like one group. The second one will create a nice wave from left to right. Then we have right to left. And next, the left arrow will create a symmetrical effect. And the right arrow will do the same, but inverted. Now we can apply some blocks and wings and further modify our effect. So now let's take a look at the show sequencer. What is the show sequencer? The show sequencer is the main tool in Depence for multimedia show programming, and I will show you how to use it. The first thing we want to do is go to sequences and create a new one. Of course, there is our PLS show demo in here, but we want to create a new sequence called tutorial. Double click on the new created sequence and the show sequencer will open. So now what we can do is go back to our scenes and into the tutorial folder with the look we created, maybe disable the look for this time, and drag and drop the look into the show sequencer. We will now see it has created a reference to the look in our tutorial folder. So now with a simple left click, we can draw a line. And if we now play back the timeline, we will see everything starts playing. And as soon as it ends, it ends. Now, as you can tell, it has created a reference. So if I go and edit our sequence, and for example, I take the Mac Ultra performance on the floor and let's zoom them open. Maybe something like that. And update our scene, release everything, and again, play back the timeline. We will see that the updates we made in the scene automatically refers to the look 1 scene in our show sequencer. On the top left and bottom left corner, we can see little dots. On the top left corner, it is a blue, and on the bottom left, it is a yellow one. If we hold them and drag them into the timeline, it will create a fade. If we take the yellow one, it will create a delay. And we can also say with the left click that the delay will come in from left to right. We can also combine the fade and the delay. So now it will fade in from left to right with a delay. Of course, you can simply create a few looks, drag and drop them into the sequencer, and then play them back one after another. But that's not how real programming works in Depence. Let me show you how it actually works. So let's delete this track again. Let's start with choosing a group. Let's take the Mac Ultra performance on the roof, drag and drop them into the show sequencer, go into the programmer, bring the fixtures at full, tilt them down a little bit, fan them out, and let's add a color. Now if we go back to the show sequencer, we can draw a line, clear everything out, and if we play back the timeline, we can see what we have programmed so far. We can see, even though our line has ended, our fixtures stay as they are. This is called tracking in Depence. Now if we go back into the programmer and change the zoom value to a narrow beam and again draw a line, we will see, once we play it back, our fixtures will full open, pan tilt with color into our position, and then only the zoom will change. Now we can go ahead and select our spiders, put them into our sequencer, and again bring them at full and tilt them down. So now it is quite uncomfortable to always switch between programmer and show sequencer. So let's switch to the show control tab here on the top. Now we have our show sequencer window on the top, our programmer window on the bottom, and the 3D preview on the right. From here, it is way easier to program in the show control rather than in the construction view. So now let's start over with our spider fixtures. Let's bring them down a little bit more and also let's pan them in. Now again, we can draw a line. What I would like to do now is a move in black. So now right click on the spider and say extract parameter. We want to extract the position. So now we have now extracted the position and placed it before the dimmer, the color, the beam values. If we now clear out and play back our sequence, we will see our spiders went into position and then dimmed up. Now let's place a position at the start of our sequence and place the dimmer between our zoom and fade in of our Mac Ultra performance. Now let's again select our fixtures. You can in the show sequencer do that by clicking on the groups in your sequencer. And let's change the color to pink. Let's draw it after the zoom of our Mac Ultra Performance. And let's take a look what we have made so far. Let's now select one more fixture group, the Ultra Performance in the roof, drag and drop them again into the show sequencer, and let's take a look at folders. So if you right click in an empty space in the show sequencer, we can say new folder. Let's call the first one Fixtures Roof, and the second one Fixtures Floor. Now we can drop our fixture groups into our folders. So for this, I will hold down the left click on the top half of the blue bars and drag and drop our Mac Ultra Performance in the Fixture Floor, our spiders in the Fixture Floor folder, and our Ultra Performance in the Roof. I will drag and drop them into the Fixtures folder Roof. So now we can see directly in the show sequencer Fixtures Roof and Fixtures Floor. So now let's quickly program our Ultra Performance in the roof to do a cool effect. For this, again, I will bring them at full, tilt them into the roof, fan them out, and draw them between the spider and the Mac Ultra Performance on the floor. I will extract the position parameter and place it before the dimmer comes in. Now let's create a delay from left to right. Now we can see that our Mac Ultra Performance on the roof goes into position and then the dimmer comes in. Now I would like that the dimmer comes in from left to right. So again, right click, extract parameter, intensity. Now, as I said, I would like to have a delay of the intensity from left to right. And now for the last part, I would also like to have the color in pink. Now let's try to add a simple pan effect to the top fixtures Mac Ultra Performance. We have extracted the position parameter of our Ultra Performance in the roof. So let's go and select it, go into pan, effect, open, and I will go again with the sine wave. And now we can see it starts spinning. Let's decrease the speed to something like 4 BPM. And that looks about good. So again, let's draw a line, maybe a longer one so it fades smoothly in. Now let's clear out and let's take a look at how it fades in. Now what I would like to add is a fading color effect for our Mac Ultra Performance in the roof, which fades from cyan to pink back to cyan. For this, let's select our group, go into color mix, effect, and instead of opening a template, we will create a new one. Now let's edit our effect, and with a double left click we can add a point in the middle. So now we fade from cyan to pink back to cyan. Now if we increase the speed, we will see that our fixtures in the roof will fade from cyan to pink back to cyan. Let's add an audio file. For this, we will go into Audiofiles, right-click, New, and now you can browse your PC for some music to add. I will go with the already imported digital.mp3. Again, with a simple drag and drop into our show sequencer, we can import this audio file into our workspace. Now let me decrease the volume to, let's say, 20%, and let's add a fade from 1 second. Now that we have added our music, we can tell that our scenes that we have programmed so far are not really matching with the actual music. Let me do some adjustments and I will come back to you in a few seconds. Okay, so it is about 10 minutes later and I created a little show which is about the length of 15 seconds. So let's take a look at what I programmed step by step. First of all, let's take a look at all my fixtures in the roof, the Mac Ultra Performance, and what they actually do. So we see they go into position, they fade in with a gobo, fade to pink, and then they simply fade off. That's it for the roof. I will now solo the Mac Ultra Performance on the floor. So let's take a look at what they do. They dim up, they fade into position, they change slowly the zoom, then they simply fade off from the middle to out. This is made with a simple delay from middle to outside. Now let's take a look at the spiders. Again, they go into position, they fade up in white, fade to pink, then there's a shutter effect which goes from the middle to out, and then the dimmer goes from out to in. Again, this is with a beam parameter or the shutter, which simply goes from the middle to outside. And then over here, there is a dimmer parameter, which goes from the outside to middle. Now let's take a look at the Mac 1. I created a new selection group for the Mac 1s. We have a Mac 1 left group, inner left, inner, inner right, right, and then all. So let's take a look at what they do. So once we are at about 10 seconds, we will see they will simply dim on one after another. Then there comes in a narrow zoom, and then from left to right, they fade off. Again, this is made only with the group, with intensity, 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 intensity. And then for all Mac 1s, the zoom changes. And then for all Mac 1s, they dim off with a delay from left to right. This parameter here is only affecting the inner Mac 1s, and it's simply a tilt up. So now let's take a look at what the scene looks like when we play it back. For this, I will go back into the construction view to have a bigger view of our 3D. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, make sure to leave a comment or contact us at support@synchronorm.com.